Hello friends, in our previous lecture we have started the chapter provisions and reserves, which is totally theory chapter, and we were discussing about provisions and reserves. Now if I am saying that, what do you mean by provision? Provision is an amount which is set aside for a probable liability in future. But this liability is not fixed. Liability is probable, that whether it will occur or not occur. So we are keeping aside some amount from our profit and we are creating a provision. There are so much type of provisions, such as provision for depreciation, provision for bad debts, provision for any funds, etc. They are created out of profit and loss account. Okay, they are created out of profit and loss account, and any surplus is there, we can again use transfer back to the profit. In the same way, we have learned about the reserve also. Reserve is also an amount which is set aside from the profit. Now it is for contingent expenses, not probable liabilities. It is for contingent expenses or for the expansion of the business. So provision has a limited scope. We cannot expand our business using our provisions, but we can expand our business using our different types of reserves, which we have seen yesterday. Types of reserve are revenue reserve and capital reserve, and today we are going to see that different types of reserve. Let's see on page number 70 what's given. Main types of reserves are revenue reserve, capital reserve. In the revenue reserve, there are again three subtypes, that is general reserve, specific reserve, and secret reserve. Okay, now what do you mean by revenue reserve? That profit generated out of purchase and sale of goods and other regular activities of business is called revenue profit. Now see, this revenue profit already we have learned in our terminologies. You know that the profit occurring from day-to-day activities of purchase and sales, and which is regular in nature, is known as revenue profit. The reserve created out of such revenue profit is called revenue reserve. So underline first two sentences for it. Profit generated out of purchase and sale of goods and other regular activities of business is called revenue profit. Reserve created out of such revenue profit is called revenue reserve. Okay, revenue reserve is very useful to increase financial soundness of business. Moreover, revenue reserves can also be used to pay contingent expense or losses. Revenue reserve can be classified in three categories, that is general reserve, specific reserve, and a secret reserve. Now general reserve is given. The purpose of creating general reserve is to increase the financial soundness of business purpose. Its purpose is not specific. Therefore, it can be used to meet with contingent expense, losses, distribution of dividend, issue of bonus share for future growth of business. Underline till that much. If I am asking in exam what is the use of general reserve, then you can say to increase the soundness of the business. Its purpose is not specific, and it is used to pay the contingent expense of the business also, and for the growth of business also. Thus, general reserve is helping hand for business contingency. General reserve is created out of profit and loss appropriation account. As you know, all the provisions are created from profit and loss account, while all the reserves are created from profit and loss appropriation account. These two accounts are different, which you will learn in standard 12, but now for remembering the name I am telling that all the provisions are from profit and loss account, whereas all the provisions are from profit and loss account. All the reserves are from P&L, that is profit and loss appropriation account. So journal entry is given profit and loss appropriation to general reserve. Again, now the name is specific reserve. When a revenue reserve is created out of profit and loss appropriation account for specified purpose is known as a specific reserve. The purpose of such reserve may be distribute dividend of shareholders for redemption of debenture maturity, to compensate the losses, and to decrease. Okay, that thing you will not understand now, but you have to underline only first line, because all other things are given which is not understandable by you now. You will learn that in future. So now you just underline the first sentence. When a revenue reserve is created out of profit and loss appropriation account for a specific purpose. Purpose is specific in specific reserve, and purpose is not specific in general reserve. Only that is the difference. Okay. Now see, again entry is given, that is also not required. And examples of the specific reserves are also not required. These all you will not understand now, because these chapters have not came to you. So on page number 71, now directly we are seeing secret reserve, because the things which are given here is not able to understand by you, so I am not bothering you all. I am just giving the names and just we are going for that only. Now secret reserve, the reserve created without showing in profit and loss account for the purpose of strengthening financial position of the business is called a secret reserve. This reserve, of which the existence and amount is not shown in balance sheet and profit and loss appropriation account, secret reserve is also known as an internal reserve. And okay, you have to underline till that much, is known as an internal reserve. So okay, so the things which I am telling to underline, you underline and you have to show it in your notebook. Today again, what I will do after completing the lecture, I will also underline and may send the photos to you, and that much thing you have to write in your notebook and send to me. See, nowadays none of you are sending your works properly. It is up to you. I am telling that nothing will bother me. Whenever the school is starting, I will start where I have left in the online lectures. And 11th standard students, please take a note of it, that it is important that exam will be taken only. You don't think that exam will be not taken. You all are in 11th and not in 12th. Don't think that thing only. Okay, exam will be taken and it is compulsory. So you have to learn and learn and learn. Okay, so now send your works regularly and properly. Again, all these things about secret reserve are not required. Now capital reserve, the reserve which is created out of capital profit and not used for distribution of dividend is known as capital reserve. Other things are not required, because other things are not understandable by you. Only you have to understand that reserve which is created from revenue profit is a revenue reserve, and reserve created out of capital profit means long term profit. Revenue profit is a short term, while capital profit and capital reserve are for a long term. Now reserve fund directly, because in the between the things which are given, it is not understandable by you now. Generally, the amount of general reserve remains in the business as working capital, but if the amount is invested outside the business, it is known as reserve fund. Such investments are made in securities which can be easily converted into cash. Okay, this much you underline for reserve fund. What is the difference between reserve fund and general reserve? When general reserve is such an amount which we have kept aside from the profit, and we are keeping that amount in the business only, not outside. While reserve fund is such a thing, we have set aside the amount from the profit, but now that same amount we are not keeping with us, we are keeping in banks or FDs or any other investment, and which can be easily converted into cash. Okay, the basic difference between general reserve and reserve fund is only that much. Underline that. Okay. Now the differences are given on page number 72 and 73, that you underline tick mark for exam. You have to write in your notebook also this thing, because in exam for 3 marks it will be asked this difference between. Okay, now let us try to understand the difference between general reserve and provision. Now to understand it, different points are given. First we are taking the point purpose. The purpose of creating general reserve is to increase financial soundness of the business or to meet with contingent expense, where provision is made for the specific purpose for meeting the non-probable liabilities or losses, provision for depreciation, provision for bad debts. See, now they are explaining about the purpose, that general reserve does not have any purpose, while the provision has a specific purpose for a specific thing. From which account it is appropriated? General reserve is appropriated from profit and loss account, and provision is created from general reserve from profit and loss appropriation account, and provision is created from profit and loss account. That thing also you need to remember. Now voluntary or mandatory, any amount is appropriated to general reserve only if there is a profit at the end of accounting year, and it is voluntary, it is not compulsory. Whereas provision is made even if there is a loss at the end of accounting year. So see, next point is regarding the voluntary or compulsory. Now the reserves are such a thing which are created out of profit, so for that profit is required. But provisions are not that thing. It is compulsory to create the provision, while it is not compulsory to create the reserve. Use. General reserve can be used for any purpose, whereas this provision can be used for only specific purpose. Investment. General reserve can be invested in the business or outside the business. Provision cannot be invested in the business or outside the business. See, there is a difference. That is, investment can be made for general reserve, but investment cannot be made for for this provision. Now dividend. General reserve can be used for distribution of dividend. Provision cannot be used for distributor of dividend. Now what is this actually dividend? Now in a company, this is in a form of company where there is a company, there will be so much shareholders. Now what are these shareholders? Again you can't understand. But in short, if I am simply saying dividend means to give some return or to give some part of profit to our investors. For now you can understand only that thing, the people who are investing in our business, we are distributing some part of profit to them, and that is a dividend for us. Okay, nothing else. Dividend, what is there in detail you will learn in 12th standard, but now you understand only that much thing. If you are keeping secretarial practice SP, then you will understand what is dividend. But for instance, what you will mean by dividend? Dividend is such a thing, is a part of profit which is distributed among the investors of the business. People who are investing in our business, we will distribute the dividend between them. Presentation in accounts. General reserve is shown in balance sheet on liability side under reserves and surplus. Provision is shown in balance sheet on the liability side. Provision against an asset is shown by deducting from respective assets on the asset side. See, provision for depreciation, what we are doing, we are subtracting from asset side. But general reserve directly we will show on liability side. Now what is this assets and liabilities? Again we will learn in 5th chapter, which is final accounts chapter. Okay, all these are concepts related to financial accounts. Okay, so now we are just learning the names and seeing the things, but in detail we will see in upcoming chapters. So see, very good points are given. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 and 7 points are given. Now in exam you have to write any 3 points. Any 3 points of difference. 7 points are given. So any 3 points you can choose and you can write in the exam. This will be asked for 3 marks. So 1 point of difference will give 2 points on each side. So total there will be 6 points. Okay. So here there are 7 points of difference. You select your favorite 3 points. But in your notebook you should write everything. Okay. Now next, the last topic, difference between general reserve and a capital reserve. What is this difference between general and capital reserve? Again they are explaining with points of difference. Okay. So points of difference for general reserve and capital reserve is first, from which account it is appropriated. So general reserve is appropriated from profit and loss appropriation account. Capital reserve arises out of capital profit. The amount of capital profit is transferred to capital reserve. What they are telling, this general reserve is created from profit and loss appropriation account, while this capital reserve is created from a capital profit and the amount of profit is transferred to its capital reserve. Use. General reserve can be used for any purpose like growth of business, for distribution of dividend or to meet contingent requirements. Capital reserve can be used to write off loss on sale of revaluation of fixed assets or to write intangible or fictitious assets like goodwill, preliminary expense, discount on issue. This thing I know it is difficult to understand, but for writing in exam you have to write some theory part, or else this thing, see, this thing is carrying 3 marks, so any 3 points. If you think that this use point is a little bit difficult to remember, cancel that point. Okay, but you have to write in your notebook. But in exam, any 3 points. Now dividend. General reserve can be used for distribution of dividend. Generally, capital reserve cannot be used for distribution of dividend. No other thing write. Don't write the thing which is given below. Only write the thing which I am telling. General reserve cannot be used for distribution of dividend. Other things are not required. Now bonus shares. Bonus shares means extra. What you give extra, free of cost. General reserve can be used for distribution of bonus shares. Generally, capital reserve cannot be used for issuing bonus shares. No other thing is to be written. Okay, so this much things you have to write in your notebook. Again, after completing this lecture, I will underline the things and I will send to you. So you have to write that things in your notebook and send to me as soon as possible. So friends, again this chapter is completed. Now tomorrow we will go with the 4th chapter of accountancy, that is bills of exchange. That's all for today. Thank you so much.